Yeah.
Especially Americans live in such a consumer nation. It's about what you have, how much of what you have, the quality of what you have. All of those things become a factor in who you are as a person, and that's not really who we are.
Right.
It's not.
Right. You're watching A3 Aging Ann Arbor, where we talk about aging and what you need to know. I'm Faye Molitor.
And I'm Sheila Doden.
Welcome to the show. Hello. We're super excited today to introduce and have the pleasure to talk to Sharon McRill. She is the founder and president of Betty Brigade.
Yay!
Yay! We love Betty Brigade. So you're a relocation, organization, and handyman company.
Correct.
Tell us what that looks like.
Oh, it looks like chaos some days. And other days we have it like rolling like a train.
Yeah.
We help people figure out where their stuff goes. And so everything from, like stuff they want to sell. We help them find places where they can sell that, estate sales, auctions, consignment dealers, antique dealers, that kind of thing.
Sure.
All the way to helping them repair things, helping people figure out where their donations go, creating donation lists with dollar amounts, all typed up pretty, and recycling and trash. So trash is always kind of at the lower end of that list.
Yeah.
Is there anything you don't do?
Oh, yeah, we don't clean. We're not a cleaning company. Okay. And so many people think that we clean. And we bring in cleaners.
Okay.
But it's not part of our company. It's a separate company.
Good to know. Because with everything else you do, it's not surprising that people would expect that maybe the cleanup is part of it too. So, okay. Well, I mean, your mission is obviously to help people live more organized and less stress in their lives.
Yes.
So the organization part of it, talk about how that looks for people and why it might become stressful for them.
Well, our mission statement is bringing peace and ease to relocation and organizing.
Gotcha.
And so that plays into how do you make a move less stressful. People do not think about moving as being stress-free. And the three things that are most stressful in life, according to people who measure stress, are death, divorce, and moving.
Wow.
And we are often working with people who have recently experienced some sort of loss, whether it's a death or a divorce, and they are often moving. So those two things are often coupled together, so they're extra stressed. And so how do you manage that? Well, you create a plan. And so we're really good at creating the plan, figuring out what does that particular person who's sitting in front of us need.
Yeah.
And we create that custom plan for every single client.
That's excellent.
And on average, with your clients, I know it's hard. You've been doing this a long time, 20 years, I think.
20 years.
20 years. But how long would you say something like that would take your team to accomplish with someone?
Well, to create the plan, about an hour.
Okay.
It's really pretty quick.
Okay.
Once we walk through somebody's home, we can create an estimate and usually have it to them in less than 24 hours. But most estimates go out within an hour.
Wow.
The more complicated ones might take us a full 24 to figure out. But like hoarder jobs or very, very large homes, and we've done a few of those. However, mostly it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
And in order to, if you're asking how long does it take from nothing packed to the person moving, was that the question?
That's part of it, sure.
Yeah, so it takes the average person 6 to 8 weeks, if they're super motivated, to get their home ready to move. It takes us on that same house 6 to 8 days. So,
wow.
So what happens is the time significantly decreases it might be in the short term a bit more stressful because there's so much happening, but having someone there guiding you and saying, here's what's going to happen next, and here's your part of this, and here's our part of this.
Okay.
And so that the client is always aware of exactly what they need to do or what their family needs to do and what our part of it is, because we're really the heavy lifters, we're the carriers, we're the people pulling all of those decades of boxes out of garages and basements and attics.
How big is your team?
Right. Who's the we?
Yeah.
The we. So right now we are at 12 people. We will be hiring, we were just figuring this out for next year, we'll be hiring between 5 and 6 new people. So that is a big increase. That's about a little over a 30% increase. Yeah. And so we're excited about that.
That is exciting.
That's super cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what inspires you? What is it that even planted the seed in your brain that this was something that you wanted to start and do?
Well, let's go back to what inspires me. Traveling and not being at work inspires me. However, in the grand scheme of work, what inspires me is helping people. And we come across so many people that are overwhelmed by their stuff. It is decades of stuff. And especially Americans live in such a consumer nation. Mm-hmm. It's about what you have, how much of what you have, the quality of what you have. Mm-hmm. All of those things become a factor in who you are as a person. Yeah. And that's not really who we are.
Right.
It's not.
Right. No.
When you meet a person, you don't
define them by what they have, right?
Well, some people do.
I know.
Some people, want to see that watch or the bag or the car or the whatever it is, the big house, the shoes. And for some people, that's very important. Mm. But what I have seen over 20 years is really what is important is people and making sure that they are well cared for, making sure that they are respected and heard, and making sure that they are moving forward. And that means sometimes a little bit of tough love, like, do you need 27 red turtlenecks?
Right, right.
Well, and you're meeting,
and that's a real story.
You're meeting them at one of the most vulnerable points in their lives when they're making those decisions.
It can be super vulnerable. Yep. And sometimes people are 100% resistant.
Yeah.
And in those cases, we say, you're not ready. And what we do is we say, how about we start with this closet? Or how about we start with an area that does not impact their daily life, like a basement or an attic, where maybe if it's a senior, they can't go up and down the stairs anymore. And so they have forgotten what are in those rooms. Mm-hmm. And so by us starting to carry boxes to them and they're sitting in a chair or a couch and they're starting to see those things again, A, it brings up memories. But B, they recognize if they haven't seen it in years, do they really miss it?
Right.
Do they really miss it?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. I do. From moves, actually, and boxes that I didn't open. And I went, you know what? I'm not opening it. I'm putting it to the curb because I didn't need anything in there for the last 6 months. So.
And you are in the minority.
Yeah.
Most people need to look inside that box. And one of the things that we do with some of our clients is we will put a date on a box. And if they don't open it by a certain date, it needs to leave the house. But they can still look inside.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't want to know. Because then I had the temptation of wanting it. Can we talk about the hoarding part of it? A little bit.
We could do a whole show on hoarding.
That's a tough one.
Hours on hoarding.
So I guess, and it may be a question that's a little bit rough, but I'm going to ask anyway. Do you, with the elderly people that are hoarders, do you feel like there is a difference between an individual that's older that you're working with in a hoarding situation and an individual that is a younger person? Like, is there a difference in how you're approaching what you're doing there, or is it just 100% a mental situation where they just can't let go? They can't let go of their things.
The first thing that we're looking at, whether it is an older person or a younger person, is how did it come to be that way?
Yeah.
Meaning, has it just been years of accumulation, and we've had this happen where maybe several people in the family have died, and this younger person has then inherited multiple collections all at once. And so all of a sudden they are in a hoarding situation, but it is not of their doing.
Gotcha.
They just ended up with stuff, and they need to figure out what they're keeping and what they're not. And and this is for real. This is actually a lady who lived not too far from this office. She had multiple people die, and she was so overwhelmed by her stuff that she hadn't. Her house became very full, and she hadn't slept in her bed in over 2 years because her bed was just piled with stuff, and she had been sleeping on her couch for 2 years, which then caused other physical because she didn't have back support and she wasn't really resting, and all of these things that were causing all kinds of things. So in answer to your question, are there different approaches? Yes, absolutely. However, what we're looking at first is it a true hoarder, or is it a situational hoarding issue? So those are kind of two distinctions. If it is a true hoarder, and the family is forcing the situation where it has become dangerous, or it has become infested. It can be infested with bugs or mice or pets.
Black mold.
Yes. So there are a lot of situations that can come of that. What needs to happen first? And it's about assessing that situation and saying, okay, can the person continue to safely live here? Is that okay? Or is it not okay? Do they need to move off site so that some of this stuff can get taken care of? And we have come across many situations like that. And what we typically do is, if there is mold, or if there is a infestation of rodents or bugs, we bring in experts to do that first, so that gets taken care of, so that my team can safely be in the house. And regardless of the situation, what we are recommending, and this is a very touchy subject, is we are recommending that hoarder be in therapy.
No, that's fantastic.
You say that, but you cannot walk into somebody's home and go, "You need therapy."
Right.
It doesn't go over very well.
Yes, it wouldn't, but it makes sense because I'm on the outside. I'm looking in. Yeah.
And so that is something. So when a family member is calling and saying something along the lines of, "My mother is a hoarder. She doesn't want to get rid of anything, and we need help. She won't move forward." There are sometimes situations where we say, and this has come up, we say, especially if that hoarder is very elderly, like 90 years old or older, we would say it's probably better to wait until they pass, unless the situation is dire, like they cannot physically live there safely.
Right.
Where they would be evicted, or they are at risk of a fall, or they are at risk of something else. They're climbing over their stuff. And I know you told me about a lady who was climbing over her stuff.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So there are those situations. Yeah. But sometimes that hoarder will not make the decision, and the situation cannot be resolved
Right.
while that hoarder is alive, because
Right.
there is no changing their mind.
And that's exactly right. And I totally understand where you're coming from there, because that's exactly what I see in the situation that I know of. The state they can't. She's of sound mind, and they're doing nothing about it. They've closed the case, so it's going to have to be a catastrophic event that removes her from the home. So we're checking in on her as often as we can.
So would you consider that, I mean, when we've talked about it in the past with clients that we've come across, as long as it's not an infestation where they could be evicted, but a lot of times it comes down to a quality of life for that person,
Sure.
even though it might not be a physical, like, living situation that you would want to live in, but for them to remove them from that would be very catastrophic for them mentally. Yeah.
And it might be that we say, okay, so we need you to stay in a hotel for 2 days, or we need you to stay with relatives for a weekend, or something along those lines where it's very temporary.
Sure.
And we say, okay, so we got to get these mice out of here,
Yeah.
or we got to get these bugs out of here, because that's not safe.
Right.
And in order for us to do that, the house has to be tented, or they need to put chemicals in here that will hurt you, but they won't. They'll kill off whatever is going on. We don't love those jobs.
Sure.
We don't really want those jobs,
Right.
but they do come up. So let's go back to how do you assess, and how do you gently say to that person,
Sure.
you need help.
Yeah.
And so we actually have some pre-written verbiage that we use, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it's something along the lines of your living situation has gotten overwhelming. And we know you recognize this because you had us come in. We believe that additional support is needed in order for us to be successful on your project. That additional support would be with a counselor or a psychologist. We are happy to recommend people that specialize in large collections if you would like.
Okay.
And so it's very gentle,
Yes.
but it's clear we're saying you need help.
It's an assertive, respectful approach, that's for sure. Oh my gosh, that's
and-
wonderful.
Well,
Yeah, I know.
it is not always received wonderfully.
Believe me, I know.
We had one lady send this rant back to us
Oh.
about, how do you know, and you're not qualified to make, and we're not making a diagnosis. We're
Right.
not. We're just saying
Right.
you need some additional support here.
Sure.
Like, this is going to fail, and the house will fill right back up
Yeah.
again if we don't have somebody working with what's going on up here,
Right.
and somebody working on the stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, she obviously wasn't ready.
She obviously was not ready, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Being,
really is.
I mean, that speaks volumes, because if you're doing that hand in hand, it just speaks to the fact that, you're an expert. You've been doing this a long time. You've seen it happen, and that you're providing not only what you do, but multiple other resources for people. That's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
We've had, we work with a lot of social workers, caseworkers, counselors, therapists, all different kinds of folks that are doing those assessments. And we recognize that they can't always come to us because of HIPAA laws, but the
Sure.
client can come to us and say, so-and-so referred me. And, or the therapist can call and say, I'm referring a client to you. They are a hoarder. That's all they can say.
Okay. Yeah.
And we can then go from there.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Gosh, bless your heart.
It's
And the team's heart.
yeah.
That's-
It's really the team.
Yeah, that's a lot. That really is a lot. But it's needed, and it's really great that you guys are tackling that part of it as well.
And you should know we don't take every project on.
Sure. Yeah.
when we were on the Dr. Phil show, we were the case that was brought on that particular show was a guy who had bed bugs. Oh. And his daughter reported him, which is why he was on Dr. Phil. And he refused to have professional treatment. He was going to spray them down himself. Well, that will never work.
Gosh, no.
And he said to me, well, I've been spraying for a month now, and I haven't been bit in a month. And I said, no, sir, we're still not coming in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
totally.
And so sometimes the hoarder is in their own way. They think they can fix it. And what was interesting is that particular man's brother contacted me privately and said, I've been offering financial help to get him out of this hole for years, and he won't take it. And so sometimes they really are in their own way.
Well, you can lead the horse to water.
Yep.
You can't make it drink. Yes. So, I mean, there's going to be situations where people just absolutely refuse. You had an announcement, though, that you definitely wanted to mention.
Yeah.
So we definitely want you to throw that out there.
Sure.
And we definitely want you to tell people how they can reach out and how they can get to you. Well, to your team. Well, you and your team.
So, first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me on your show. This has been great. And the thing that we are launching, our handyman service in Southeast Michigan, so this is just a Southeast Michigan thing, is launching a subscription service. So you can buy once a year, 4 times a year, or 12 times a year handyman services for your home. And we're really excited to be launching that in November. So you'll be able to find lots of information on bettybrigade.com, and that is the place to contact us.
Okay. Oh, that's super cool.
We're excited to talk about that too.
I might be looking into the handyman services myself. I'm not going to lie. Okay, so I am going to ask you one more question. It mentioned online that there's an eco-friendly approach to what you do. Can you just quickly talk about that? Because I did want to touch on that really quick.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we try and recycle as much as we possibly can. Nice. So it's not just glass, plastic, metal, and paper, which most people think about. We recycle home electronics, we recycle chemicals, we recycle eyeglasses, we recycle prescription drugs, we recycle sheets and towels to humane societies, and we have a whole bunch of other vendor partners where we recycle things that people don't necessarily think about, and I'd be happy to go into those, but I think we're short on time.
No, for sure we can do this on the next show, absolutely, but that is super cool.
We've won 3 recycling awards.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
you've done a lot.
You have.
People.
Yes.
And hopefully after this show, you'll be doing even more.
Exciting. Well, I'm super excited. We were just selected as the 2023 Professional Organizer of the Year for Ann Arbor.
Oh, that's
yay! Cool. Good job. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow, you got a lot going on. That's fun.
It's a roller coaster every day.
Yeah. Of joy. Yeah.
Okay.
Joy.
We're going to go with that. That's the story and we're sticking to it.
All right.
Okay. Well, Sharon, we're, nearing the end of our episode, but we'd very much like to continue the conversation. So we're hoping you can stay and we will.
Absolutely.
Awesome. That's what we'd love to do. We hope you enjoyed this episode with Sharon McRill from Betty Brigade. We would very much appreciate if you would like and subscribe by hitting that bell button below.
And this show has been sponsored by Senior Helpers.
That was A3 Aging Ann Arbor, your source for all things aging.
Please like, share, and subscribe for more episodes. Thanks for watching.
This episode was sponsored by Senior Helpers of Ann Arbor.